You know, I'm a real hardcore gamer. If we've got beef, we'll settle it the way real gamers do. 1v1 wanted. Highest score wins. So yeah, in the last video we talked about New Super Mario Bros. DS, which as you were probably made very aware, I quite like, probably more than most people. But if I'm being honest, for every bit of time I spent on it and the other major Mario game on the DS, Super Mario 64 DS, I spent almost an equal amount of time on the minigame mode. Seriously, this thing just consumed hours of my life when I was a kid, and heck, I still pick them up every once in a while. They're all created with the intent of showcasing some of the uses of the DS's major innovative features, namely the touchscreen and dual screen setup. Now, saying that doesn't really instill confidence. It's like, oh boy, can't wait to play some tacked-on minigames. But trust me, it's not like that. Through some kind of sorcery, somehow these minigames are genuinely, and I mean genuinely really fun. A lot of these have that wonderful arcadey feel. They're simple to understand, simple to play, but very difficult to master. It's part of the reason why these whiled away so much time for me when I was a kid. It was just so easy to get stuck with that mindset of just one more try. And the crazy part isn't just that these minigames are weirdly high quality, it's that they're kinda just tossed into fully featured games. I mean, these two had full campaigns with tons to do, tons of secrets to find, like, they really didn't need this, but they just tossed them in anyways. They probably figured, you know, it'd probably be even more fun if these games had all these fun minigames, and whoever came up with these, I love you. And the funny thing is that they really could have just tossed these into their own game and no one would have batted an eye. I mean, if they could release something like Yoshi Touch and Go, which arguably has less going on than these minigames, then they easily could have tossed these into their own game at full price and probably would have gotten away with it. But no, instead they just made an already amazing package even better, which is great. So you know what? Let's talk about them. All of them. I should note really quick that these games actually don't share all the same games, as New Super Mario Bros. DS inexplicably cuts like half the minigames and then adds a couple of its own exclusive games. Regardless, we'll talk about all of them anyways. And I want to know what your favorite minigames are from these. Be sure to tell me in the comments if you want. Or don't, I'm not your dad, I can't tell you what to do. So let's get started with these minigames, shall we? Now first up is Yoshi's set of games. This is probably the most varied in quality in terms of the sets. Like, it has both things in the upper end of the quality spectrum and other things that are all the way at the bottom. It's like a puzzle set, I guess? I think that's the theme at least. Well, let's get started then, shall we? She loves me not. She loves me,
No! There's no reason for me to live! No reason at all!
So real talk, editing this is probably the most fun I've ever had with this minigame. Like, I can't even really call this a minigame. You just pull flower petals and it tells you whether she loves you or not. That's it. Kinda lame, honestly. Words cannot even describe how long I've spent playing this minigame. Like, it's not even funny. I used to spend hours just sitting there trying to find where the frick Luigi is. Where is he? I can't even... Oh, there he is. Never mind. The genius of this one is in its simplicity. Like, you immediately understand how the game works after just one round, and yet it can get real tricky real quick. They hide these things in some pretty devious places. Sometimes the only way to find the characters is to tell apart the subtle differences in their eye placement. It's just so addicting with the constant ups and downs, finding some immediately and then having the very next one waste like 30 seconds, only to then come back from that heavy loss, and before you know it, bam. Like, freaking look at this. This was just a recorded footage. Though I have to wonder, what exactly did Luigi do to become a wanted criminal? I mean, Wario is pretty self-explanatory. Even his smell is probably illegal in some states. Mario technically was arrested in Super Mario Sunshine. But Luigi, come on, this guy couldn't hurt a fly. Let him out, he's innocent. Toxbox Shuffle, which isn't some crazy dance move, is just a slight variation of that one cup game. You know, the one where you put a ball under a cup, move it around, and which one is it under? Whoa, you got it, how crazy. And that's essentially what this is. I mean, hey, later they add a blue Yoshi. There's really not much going on with this minigame. Puzzle Panel is a puzzle game where you have to try to match the pattern on the bottom with the one on the top. When you flip one box, however, the rest all flip around it. It's kind of neat, I guess, but generally not something I want to spend my time on. And Puzzle Panic is essentially the same thing, but now it's bigger. Seems to be a bit of a theme with these DS Mario games, huh? Boombox is a lot like one of those card matching games where you have a set of cards and you have to try and match each with its corresponding card to make a pair, but this time it's with sound, and I am not very good at it. At all. Dude, it's weird. I have no problem with visual versions of this, but I am just not great at remembering sounds, I guess? Not a bad game necessarily, I am just not good at it. Witch Wiggler is a lot like Wanted. So you have this wiggler with a certain pattern on his back, and you have to try and match it with the one on the bottom screen that's like it. It's got a lot of the same appeal as Wanted, and it's a lot of fun too, but low stakes music isn't quite as enthralling here. Could they not have picked something a little more exciting than this? Mix-a-Mug is one of those games where you have 3 panels and you're supposed to try to get it to create a total face, and it's really lame and it's kind of difficult and it's really boring, and I didn't even like this game in Mario 3, and yeah, that. Hide and Boo Seek is actually really neat. There are a bunch of boos on the bottom screen, and then this screen goes dark. You're supposed to predict where the boos will end up and then touch that area on the bottom screen in a really short time. It's simple, replayable, and just really fun, honestly. Oh, come on, Luigi, things will get better. I know you were falsely accused earlier, but you'll recover, don't cry. Alright, that wraps it up for the Yoshi minigames. Next up is the Mario set. I'd probably call this one the action set. Like, compared to a lot of the other sets, there's a lot more direct interaction with the minigames here. This one's also a lot less mixed than the previous one, thankfully, which makes sense. Like, of course Mario's gonna get the good set. He's Mario. He's the big boy. Yoshi isn't. Also, he commits tax fraud, so of course he would get the worst treatment. So hey guys, I'm gonna let you in on a crazy unknown fact. Did you know that Mario can jump? I know, this information must be shocking. And it just so happens that Nintendo made not 1, not 2, but 4 games built around this idea. Bounce and Pounce has several Marios just kind of free floating in the sky for some reason, I guess, and it's your job to not only stop them from falling to their untimely deaths and causing a lot of confusion when they find 3 identical Mario bodies in the ground, but also to jump on the Shy Guys that are on the screen. You do this by tapping Mario on the bottom screen, the placement of the touch affecting where he goes somewhat. It's actually a really fun minigame, especially because you can do this. Bounce and Trounce, meanwhile, is the same idea, but instead of killing all the Shy Guys and ending the level, this time it goes on infinitely, with Shy Guys just constantly spawning. Both solid minigames, though I personally prefer Bounce and Trounce because it feels a little more hectic, and also there's more of this. In Trampoline Time, instead of tapping Mario to make him jump, you drag the stylus across the screen to create big or small trampolines, the size and angle of them affecting the direction and height Mario goes. I don't like this one quite as much, partially because drawing the trampolines just doesn't feel quite as satisfying as just tapping Mario, and partially because half the time I get Mario to the correct door, and right at that moment, it's when it decides to close. Don't get me wrong, it's still a fun minigame, I just like this one a little less. Also, Trampoline Terror works off the same mechanic, but this time you're going through rings. I like this one a little better. Why is that? Well, it's prettier. No, that's it. These 4 are probably the most active of all of the minigames, and that's because of how they're structured. They're a lot of fun to replay over and over too. Definitely some of my favorites of the set. Speaking of my favorites, by the way. Okay. So Sword or Splode is one of the most simple and concept minigames, but it's absolutely really addicting. There are 2 sections, red and black. Try to get the correct bomb into the correct pen before it explodes. Like, technically, it's just sorting. That should be the most boring thing in the world, but here it just works. They start coming out in droves, and it gets hard to keep track of which ones are about to explode, and sorting them just gets crazy, but you really don't want to put them in the wrong pen because... yeah, that. I freaking love this minigame. Easily one of the most addicting of the set too. It's just great. Now, Shuffle Shell is decidedly less interesting. It's basically like curling. Try to slide the shell into the circle to get more points. You can knock shells with other shells to either move them to a better place or just ruin everything. Yada yada yada, you know the drill. I don't dislike this one, but it's not really my favorite either. It doesn't really help that it has a second version that is way better. Shell Smash still has the same shell sliding mechanic, but now the goal is to cause as much havoc as possible. There's just something so satisfying about watching these things just slam into each other, and the sound effects are just so freaking satisfying. So yeah, Shuffle Shell, sorry buddy, but I'll be sticking with Shell Smash. No hard feelings. Mario Slides is pretty simple. Mario's head is sliding down this path, taking every line he comes across. The goal is to draw lines on the bottom screen to get Mario to where the star is, as the lines stick around for 5 rounds, meaning you're constantly having to deal with the consequences of past moves. It's an okay minigame, but I wouldn't really say it's that notable. It also has another variant, Connect the Characters. In this one, none of them move before you press go, so your goal is to get every one of the correct heads to the correct bodies. I like this one a lot more because it feels like you're constantly trying to solve a puzzle of your own creation. The lines you used before stay there, so you need to constantly work around that. I also like this one more because you actually have time to think it through, which is kind of nice. And when you come up with a solution, watching all the heads seamlessly make their way to the correct place just feels so satisfying. It's great. So I obviously spent a lot of time with these previous minigames, but if there was one thing I stared at the most with these, it was this big, beautiful face. So Luigi's minigames are all gambling minigames, and on concept, I should hate them. I do not like gambling in real life at all, so why would I like these? Well, funnily enough, if anything was going to give me a gambling addiction, it'd be these minigames. There's something so charming about these. The calming music in the background, Luigi's comforting face playing with you, the general vibe the background gives off. Like, this is just so chill and fun. I mean, even losing in these games doesn't feel bad. Luigi just gives a reaction like, hey man, it's okay, you win some, you lose some, maybe the next one you'll do better. Like, man, it's just so fun. The game I spent the most time on was easily Picture Poker, which is just the embodiment of all of these good attributes. It just feels like me and my buddy Luigi are playing poker together and having a good time with it. I played this obsessively when I was a kid. If I could have shown you the coin counter on my old cartridge, you would be slightly concerned. And funnily enough, even on this profile, I may have gone a bit too far. This is easily the best version of poker ever. Now, as far as the rest of the games go, I mean, there's not a ton I can say. These are pretty much basic gambling games. But you know what? I'll go through each of them rapid fire, just for you. Memory Match. Match 2 cards to make a pair. Always solid fun. And Memory Master is just like that, but bigger. Lucky Stars. Pick a card, hope it's the one with more stars. This is literally just luck, it's kinda lame. Wanna play some slot machines? Well, this set's got you covered with not one, but 2 slot machines. Maybe a roulette's more your style? Well, clearly it isn't mine because, oh boy, I am very bad at it. Paragon. Match cards with another horizontally, vertically, or diagonally to try and clear a board. Actually, a ton of fun. And Paragon and On is like that, but now it goes on forever and is even better. Not all of them are amazing, of course, but regardless, I love Luigi's set, and I'll never pass up an opportunity to go and gamble with Luigi. And before we get to our final set, I think now's a good time to jump into the new Super Mario Bros. DS exclusive games, of which there are 3. I promise this won't take long. The best of the bunch is easily Danger Bob-omb Danger. Your goal is to evade all of this fire while dragging this Bob-omb around the screen with the stylus. It gets pretty crazy, what with the absolute barrage of fire coming from all directions, and the Bowser statue occasionally raining down fire as well. I actually really like this one, and I'd say it's easily in my top 10 favorite minigames. Whack-a-Monty is literally just whack-a-mole. Tap the Monty moles on the touchscreen to get more points and try not to hit Luigi. Then at the end, watch their lifeless bodies get packed on top of each other. That's great, Nintendo. But yeah, it's alright, not much else to say. In balloon racing, you blow Yoshi with the microphone. Unfortunately, my mic wasn't working, so I couldn't play the game. A tragedy that I can't experience it, I'm sure. And now we get to our last set for today, that being the Wario set. From what I can tell, this set seems to lack a theme, as the minigames present are all very different from each other. This honestly just feels like the leftover set, a set for the minigames that couldn't fit in the other sets because it unbalanced the number. This doesn't mean it's a bad set though, it's got some good minigames. In Coincentration, Wario hits an enemy and then tons of coins fall down the screen, landing in the blocks on the bottom. Your goal is to pay attention to which blocks have coins in them and try to hit as many as you can. The minigame is pretty straightforward, but I do enjoy it, even if I'm not the greatest at it sometimes. And Intense Coincentration is almost exactly the same as Coincentration, but this time there's less coins, meaning strangely enough it's actually easier for me, which is kinda weird. Snowball Slalom is pretty simple too. There's a snowball on the touchscreen, and you're supposed to swipe it to get it to roll. You want to get it to the end of the track by keeping it rolling and using the slides to avoid hitting rocks. It's pretty cool.
That was some comedy gold there, huh?
I like this one a lot as well, even if it feels like it's a little less replayable than the other games. And Giant Snowball Slalom is pretty much the same idea, but this time the track is bigger and the snowball is allowed to grow to a much larger size. Man, I feel like a lot of these minigames have a second version that's just bigger. Kinda weird. And speaking of games that have a second version, Bingo Ball and its equivalent Slot Shot are at least a little different. In Bingo Ball, your goal is to launch these ball things so that they land in these numbers at the bottom to try and get more bingos on the crossboard. Slot Shot tasks you with trying to get this slot machine to activate while trying to get as many points as possible. Both are fine, I guess, but not really particularly notable. In Psych Out, you're given the back of a card on the top screen, and your goal is to guess which picture is on the other side. Sometimes you can legit see what's on the other side, but other times it's just kind of impossible, meaning you have to guess. Real talk, this minigame is probably the worst of the Wario set, but I have to give it credit. The whole visual style and the use of a slowed down Dire Dire Docks theme makes this pretty relaxing, so at least it has that going for it. In Lakitu Launch, you're using a catapult on the bottom screen to launch Spinies into tubs that these Lakitu are holding. That's really all I have to say about this one. It's not bad per se, just not really notable honestly. But hey, we saved the best for last. All the rest of these look like filler compared to the absolute blast that is Bob-omb Squad. Man, I really like minigames with Bob-ombs, huh? In this one, you have a slingshot, and your goal is to hit the Bob-ombs falling from the sky, which for some reason just really want to massacre this flower field. Kinda strange, but okay. The more you hit with one ball, the more points you get, and hitting a Lakitu destroys every Bob-omb on the screen, which boy, you're gonna need because this gets crazy. Near the end, there are like a billion Bob-ombs, and you're just hanging on by a thread trying to get rid of each one of them. It's genuinely one of my favorites of all the minigames, and I remember spending a lot of time on this one when I was a kid. And that's it. Those are all the minigames, all 39 of them. Honestly, getting to replay all of these for this video, it impressed me just how freaking great all of these are. There's just so many cool concepts and fun ideas in these minigames, so it's no wonder I spent so much time on them as a kid. And like, yeah, sure, I get it, these are just a bunch of random minigames, who cares? But honestly, considering how much they add to the package, I'd argue they don't really get the appreciation they deserve. While not every one of these is a winner, revisiting these was nothing short of a blast, and I'm really glad these whiled away so much time for me when I was a kid. I'm also glad I didn't get a gambling addiction from these either, so thank you Luigi for sparing me from that. But hey, if you want some more Mario DS fun, why not check out my video on New Super Mario Bros. DS? Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. I gotta get back to playing The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past for my Super Nintendo. See you guys next time.